Congratulations, 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 congratulations. We'll go in our operation against the occupation. For elimination the operations, we'll go in our operation. Congratulations, congratulations. We'll go in our operation against the occupation. For elimination the operations, we'll go in our operation. If who act against our nation, we bravely target that nation. If who don't act against our nation, they are secured from our operation. Congratulations, congratulations. We'll go in our operation against the occupation. For elimination the operations, we'll go in our operation. If who act against Muslim nation, we are danger for all those nations. If who don't act against Muslim nation, we promise and assure that nation. We seek peaceful life for Muslim nation. We have full support of whole Muslim nation. Congratulations, congratulations. We'll go in our operation against the occupation. For elimination the operations, we'll go in our operation. If Americans act against Afghan nation, we keep them in target by our operation. If they want to secure their nation, they shouldn't act against Afghan nation. Americans are terrorist nation.
By the name of Yaqub, who would be born 20 miles from the holy city of Mecca, and who would create a new evil race of men who would take over and rule the black man for 6,000 horrific years. 8,400 years later, as the 24 scientists had foretold, Yaqub was born in Mecca. He had a giant fucked up looking head into his two brows, which although disgustingly ugly, also gave Yaqub super genius levels of intelligence. At the age of 4, Yaqub began school. He was viciously bullied by his peers due to his giant hideous cranium, and was mockingly referred to as the big head scientist. After being ostracized by other black people for his colossal, nauseating dome, he vowed to get revenge on the entire black race. One day at the age of 6, Yaqub was on the floor playing with 2 pieces of steel. He noticed the magnetic power of attraction between the pieces of metal, how one piece of steel was drawn under the power of another. He imagined an evil race drawing the noble black race under its power, using lies and trickery. This is a direct excerpt from the book. Quote, he looked up at his uncle and said,
Uncle, when I get to be an old man, I'm going to make up people who shall rule you.
The uncle said, what will you make? Something to make mischief and cause bloodshed in the land? Yaqub said,
Nevertheless, uncle, I know that which you do not know.
And it was at that moment the boy, Yaqub, first came into the knowledge of just who he was, born to make trouble, break peace, kill and destroy his own people with a made enemy for the black nation. By the time he turned 18, Yaqub had graduated from every college and university in the nation. During his studies, he had made an incredible discovery. While observing the DNA of a black person under a microscope, DNA is referred to as germs in the book, he found out that there were 2 strands of DNA within black men, black and brown. Using a method known as grafting, aka eugenics, Yaqub could selectively breed brown people and their descendants until all the melanin was diluted and their skin complexion became white. In order to bring this new race to fruition, Yaqub would need a large royal population to experiment on. So he began preaching Islam on the streets of Mecca and soon began amassing followers. He promised his followers a life of luxury, that he would make others do all their work for them, which sounded like a pretty good deal to the converts. The king of Mecca became alarmed at the metric shit ton of people Yaqub was converting and decided to put an end to it. Yaqub and thousands of his supporters were imprisoned. Every person that was found to be a believer of Yaqub's teachings was thrown in jail. But soon the jails became filled with Yaqub's followers. There was simply no room left, and when the authorities went out into the streets, there were still more disciples of Yaqub teaching. They could not contain them all. The king decided to meet with Yaqub to see if they could iron out some sort of deal to put an end to the madness. Quote, the king said, So you are Mr. Yaqub, he said.
Yes, I am.
The king said, Yaqub, I have come to see if we could work out some agreement that would bring an end to this trouble. What would you suggest? Mr. Yaqub told the king.
If you give me and my followers everything to start civilization as you have, and furnish us with money and other necessities of life for 20 years, I will take my followers and we will go from you.
The king was pleased with the suggestions and conditions made by Yaqub and agreed to take care of them for 20 years until Yaqub's followers were able to go for themselves. After learning who Mr. Yaqub was, they all were afraid of him and were glad to make almost any agreement with him and his followers. End quote. After the 20 years, as agreed upon, Yaqub and 59,999 of his followers were loaded onto ships and exiled from the kingdom. Yaqub himself personally examined all 59,999 of his followers to see if they were 100% loyal to him. If not, they were thrown overboard. Yaqub's fleet of ships left the shores of the kingdom for the Isle of Palan in the Aegean Sea, which is referred to today as Patmos in Greece. They went south, all around Africa. I'm not sure why they didn't just walk and take a boat to Lilies or whatever. During the arduous voyage, unbeknownst to his followers, Yaqub initiated his eugenics scheme. He only let light-skinned people make babies and prevented marriage between black and brown people. Of course, he wouldn't let two black people marry, and especially have kids. If a light-skinned baby was born on the ship, it was allowed to stay. If a dark-skinned baby was born on the ship, Yaqub would throw him overboard. Understandably, when the dark-skinned people found out about Yaqub's insane eugenics program, they freaked out. Many black people jumped overboard and swam to shore, which is how you know the story made up. In some retellings, the black people who swam to shore went on to populate the African continent, with their descendants living there to this day. Finally, after the worst cruise ever, Yaqub and his loyal followers finally reached the island of Palan. There, the people declared Yaqub to be the king of the island. Soon, King Yaqub's evil plan began being implemented in full swing. Yaqub created an elite inner circle consisting of doctors, ministers, nurses, and a cremator. They would create a vile, subhuman race of evil beings that could hardly be called men. These despicable creatures would destroy all of civilization and rule the world for 6,000 years of darkness. Or wait, it was a rule that everyone on the island had to come to the doctor before they could get married. If two black people wanted to get married, the doctor would ask for a blood sample from both of them, telling them he just wants to see if they are genetically compatible. Then he'd take the samples to his lab and pretend to examine it. He would then return and tell the couple that their blood would not mix, and that they are ineligible for marriage. If two brown people wanted to marry, the doctor would approve their marriage and give them a marriage certificate. Yaqub wanted a complete and total annihilation of the black race. Every black baby born was fucking brain spiked as soon as it was out of its mother's womb. Quote, if the mother is alert, watching the nurse, then the nurse would lie and fool the mother to get possession of the child to murder it, by saying that she, perhaps the mother, gave birth to an angel child, and that she, the nurse, would like to take the baby to heaven, so when the mother dies, she would have a room with her child in heaven, for her baby was an angel. Yaqub would then feed these dead black babies to the wild beasts on the island. If there were no beasts, the cremator would fucking vaporize them. I actually looked at what kind of predators live on Patmos, Palan. And the biggest one I could find is the snake, and this guy. If it's not obvious, Yaqub was a rather cruel king. At the first sign of disloyalty, from his top inner circle to his lowly laborers, Yaqub would have them beheaded. Yaqub's tyrannical kingdom had successfully began breeding out all the black people from the island. Imagine being one of Yaqub's dark-skinned followers. You preach for the guy, and are thrown in jail for the guy, devote 2 decades to serve him, and are so loyal that you will set sail to unknown lands for him, all for Yaqub to kill your babies and turn you into a slave. As the years turned into decades on the island, Yaqub's vision was being realized. Over the years, he had grown tired and sick, yet proud of his achievements. The new race of light-skins he had forged, through relentless determination and a tiny bit of genocide, was flourishing in their new homeland. The population of black people had reached an all-time low. Yaqub rested his massive, vain, grotesque head onto the back of his chair and sighed in content. His 2 brains were at peace. After many years, Yaqub had reached the ripe old age of 150. Finally, Yaqub rested his eyes, and one of his fucking brains exploded, resulting in his death. Alas, Yaqub would not live to see his brain's child come to fruition, but his loyal followers were still hard at work with their eugenics program. After 200 years, no black people remained on the island. All were brown. After 200 more years, the people on the island were all yellow or red. 200 years thereafter, a vile, putrid race of nose-seasoned, brain-clapping, hockey-playing, school-shooting, Discord-rooming, fly-fishing, coleslaw-eating, manager-talking, Kendrick-listening, sister-fucking, therapy-going, coffee-drinking, NASCAR-racing, Prozac-taking, slave-owning, dog-raping, Reddit-using, race-mixing, EV-driving, hair-dyeing, anime-watching, pot-smoking, IPA-sipping, A24 viewing, shorts and winter-wearing, exposed brick studio-living, pale, naked whites was all that remained on the island of Patmos. The whites were all naked because they were too retarded to wear clothes. Quote, the Yaqub-made devils were really pale, with really blue eyes, which we think are the ugliest of colors for a human eye. They were called Caucasian, which means, according to some of the Arab scholars, one whose evil effect is not confined to oneself alone, but affects others. End quote. Meanwhile, back in the holy city of Mecca, home of the original black nation, Muhammad and his army of Muslims were laying siege to the city. However, amidst all the fighting, the imams, or scientists of the black nation, came forward and informed Muhammad of the rise of the white race in distant lands. Muhammad immediately called a ceasefire. There was a greater enemy at their hands. Muhammad sought to convert the whites into followers of Islam. The black scientists warned him against doing this and informed him of the prophecy that the white race would continue to exist for thousands of years. The only way to defeat the white race was to graft them back into the original black population. This caused Muhammad so much sorrow that it bothered him until he died. The white race would not stay in distant lands for long. After a long journey from the island, the army of Caucasians arrived at the gates of Mecca. There, they forced their original black nation to throw open their gates for the Caucasian host, but they didn't put the city to the torch. Instead, they subverted the black people into fighting each other and then swooped in and resolved their conflicts, making the black population of the city view the whites as peacemakers. The king of Mecca was not falling for the whites' trickery. He ordered the white race exiled from the kingdom and for aprons to cover their naked bodies. Soldiers armed with rifles forced the whites out of the Mecca and made them walk across the desert to a distant land called West Asia, now known as Europe. Quote, Yaqub's made devils were driven out of paradise into the hills of West Asia, Europe, and stripped of everything but the language. They walked across that hot, sandy desert into the land where long years of both trouble and joy awaited them. But they finally made it. Not all, many died in the desert. End quote. The evil white race could do whatever they wanted in Europe, as long as they never crossed the border into the rest of the world. Muslim troops patrolled the border to make sure that no whitey ever found its way into the civilized world. The soldiers patrolled the border, armed with swords, to prevent the devils from crossing. This went on for 2,000 years. After that time, Musa, parentheses Moses, after that time, Musa, or Moses, was born. The man whom Allah would send to these exiled devils to bring them again into the light of civilization. Before we take up this first 2,000 years of the devils exiled on our planet, let us not lose sight of what and how they were made, and of the God who made them, Mr. Yaqub. Once in Europe, the whites were too fucking stupid to actually build civilization, so they just lived in caves for 2,000 years. No buildings, no literature, no fire. All was lost on these primitive savages. Some whites, perhaps with a faint distant memory of a great race they once belonged to, began attempting to graft themselves back into a black race. But they had nothing to base themselves off of. They lacked the blueprint. So these whites eventually turned into gorillas and monkeys. Indeed, the entire simian lineage can trace its origins back to the 2,000 years whites were living in the caves of Europe. The whites began devolving. They walked on their hands and feet, began carrying clubs to fight the wild animals, grew hair all over their bodies to protect from cold. The next thing the whites did was tame dogs. I suspect the women were responsible for this. Quote, today, the dog is still loved by the white race, and is given more justice than the so-called Negroes, and is called the white man's best friend. This comes from the cave days. End quote. After 2,000 years of being primitive cave people, Allah sent Moses to tame the pale savages. Moses became the god and leader of the whites. He literally had to teach the white people how to season their food. He taught them how to make a fire. He taught them to wear clothes. Quote, he established for them Friday as the day to eat fish, and to not eat beef on that day. And fish is the main menu on Friday in many of the whites' homes today. End quote. One day, Moses brought a boatload of fish from Egypt to Europe to feed the whites. One of the most intelligent whites came up to Moses and asked, where is the water? That is when Moses realized that white people are so fucking low IQ that they were almost beyond help. Even though Moses was bestowing infinite knowledge on the whites, they were literally too fucking stupid to absorb anything. He didn't trust the retarded barbarians and had to sleep in a ring of fire to protect himself at night. Whites are scared of fire, as it turns out. The scientists from the black nation traveled to Europe and praised Moses' work. Moses vented about how difficult it was to civilize the whites. He was getting fed up. Eventually, a fateful day came when the whites were peeving Moses so bad that he just gave up and exploded 300 of them with dynamite and left. Now, without Moses to restrain and control them, the white menace was unleashed upon the world. While extremely dumb, the whites were talented at one thing, tricknology. Tricknology is the deceitful way whites are able to manipulate the other races of the world. Using tricknology, the Europeans conquered and colonized the entire world. Despite their lack of intelligence, they laid waste to entire continents, brought the most advanced black civilizations to its knees. They stole black inventions and passed them off as their own. Throughout the centuries, the black man has been subjugated and victimized by the whites, all the way up to the modern day. Even the other colored races, red, yellow, and brown, once part of the supreme black nation, now coerced by the manipulation of the whites, participated in horrific violence against black people. I mean, the black people gave us non-blacks everything. They taught us, invented everything for us, founded our civilization for us, gave us the key to infinite prosperity. How do we repay them? By voting to end affirmative action? Really? And that's where we are today. A world ruled by whites. A world where black people are still enslaved. A world where the white man is the puppet master of all the governments.